Hey guys, it's Harleywood. All right, you guys have been on me about doing another trigger comparison video. This will be the third installment. I did 4 in the first version, I did 5 triggers in the second version, and this one will also have 5, technically 6, because I'm gonna throw in just a factory mil-spec trigger to give you kind of a baseline. Now, I don't want this video to be terribly long, and we have a lot to cover. So let's talk about the format. First, I'm gonna get all of these on the tabletop and I'm gonna talk to you about why I chose them. I'm going to install each of them in this trigger jig, and we're gonna test the pull weight, we're gonna test the take up or the creep. I'm gonna tell you what the break feels like. I'm gonna show you the over travel and the reset. At the end of this, I'm gonna put a chart up that kind of quantifies all this for you and talk about the ones that I feel are the best in each of those categories. Let's get on the table. No particular order. Up first is the Elftmann Pro Lock. This is the SE component trigger. In my opinion, the bow profiles on the Elftmann triggers are some of the best. I absolutely love this flat version. Now the Pro Lock is, if you notice, real small in there. There are threads inside of the trigger pin channel. Same thing with the hammer pin channel. This is the Pro Lock drop-in match trigger. You can really see those threaded channels there. We are not reviewing this one today, but instead of having to use anti-walk, anti-rotation pins, you simply set this down in the receiver, and it comes with these little set screws. From the outside of the receiver, you drive those set screws in, torque them down, and it locks this in. Now, especially on this drop-in version, it also has those base screws that you drive in to lock it up from the bottom of the receiver also. Today, we're gonna focus on this component version. All right, up next, Geissele. I have been very critical of Geissele triggers in the previous 2 videos. I have done the Super 3 gun and the SSA trigger in the previous videos. I did not like them. The SSA is a 2-stage trigger. The S3G, the Super 3 gun, says that it's a single-stage trigger on the website. If you read a little bit more though, it says it's a hybrid. All right, it's not actually a single stage trigger. So I beat it up a little bit in that last video because of how it classified itself, and it did not stack up to other single stages. In this video, this is the SSP, the single stage precision. This is a true single stage trigger. So we're gonna see how this one does. I've also mentioned in previous videos that I'm a huge fan of the flat bow face here. This one has the flat bow. I have very, very high hopes for this trigger. The surprise out of the previous video was the Rise Armament RA434. I was blown away by the crispness of the break, just the price of the trigger was fantastic. I actually really liked the bow profile and how it felt on the finger. This is the 535, and this is supposed to be an even better version. So we'll see how this one stacks up and if it impresses equally as much. Next is the Triggertech. This is the competition version. If you look at Triggertech triggers, they are pretty stunning. I mean, just look at the craftsmanship inside of there. The competition version, the reason I picked this is because I have previously reviewed their adjustable version. I also have the combat version of this that I have never reviewed. So I chose this one to see its comparison versus the other 2 that I already have. And last but not least, the Hiperfire Genesis. I chose this because Hiperfire in my previous videos was consistently the most requested one for me to review. Again, this is the Genesis. There are several different ones out there. This one is perhaps the most, I don't want to call it complicated to install because it's not terribly difficult, but compared to the others, it is the more difficult one to install. It comes with 2 different springs. These here are for the medium pull weight, and these here are for the light to medium pull weight. We will go over both. Okay, to get kind of a baseline, this is just a factory mil-spec trigger. £6, 2.8 ounces. £6, 1.3 ounces. 5 pounds, 13.8 ounces. All right, let's check out how this puppy moves. So you can already see there's some take up in that trigger. Stay there. And the creep is when the sear actually starts to move. Now you can see it's starting to creep a little bit. Watch the creep. So we're already at 2 millimeters almost of take up. Look at the creep. You can see it moving all the way to 4 and it breaks. Let's reset it. It's at 4.5, 5 millimeters. Look at all of that reset. Take up. There's your creep. See it starting to move. Still moving, still moving. There's your break to 5 millimeters. Now, one thing that I did wrong in the previous video is I did not have the safety selector installed. This was most obvious on the Geissele. The drop-in triggers did not have much over travel. This didn't play as much of a role. On the Geissele, it had a lot of over travel because I didn't have this in. So I did annotate that in the previous video. Anyway, back to the Elftmann. Here you can see those 2 set screws. They thread into those channels on the hammer and trigger pins. Let's check the pull weight. £3, 7.6 ounces. £3, 6.3 ounces. £3, 8.3 ounces. Pretty darn consistent. Let's go ahead and apply a little pressure. There is no movement on that trigger, so no take up. We're going to pull through the brake. Looks like a 4 millimeter brake. And check that reset. Nice crisp reset. Full 4 millimeter reset. God, that's a nice brake. Okay, and the Geissele SSP. £3, 4.3 ounces. £2, 15 ounces. £3 almost on the nose. All right, let's test out the Geissele. Ah, you thought I was going to forget it, didn't you? All right, enough joking around. Here we go. Test out the Geissele. All right, we have a tiny bit of movement. Let's go ahead and apply pressure. Whew, that's a good break. 4 millimeters. Let's check out that reset. Okay. It's pretty clean. I like this much better than their 2-stage triggers. It's good. I like it. £3, 10.2 ounces. £3, 13.1 ounces. £3, 10.6 ounces. A little bit of take up there. Almost 2 millimeters. It's unfortunate. Let's pull through it. Wow. Really tiny break on that. No travel. Reset. We're at 3 millimeters. That's about a 1 millimeter, maybe a 2 millimeter reset. Let's pull through again. Wow. Here's that reset. Man, it's unfortunate it has that little bit on the front end there. There's no creep whatsoever. Let's see that break again. Man, that's a good break. All right. Kind of wish it didn't have that, but all things considered, not bad. £3, 15.9 ounces. £4, 1.1 ounces. £4, 3.2 ounces. No movement on the trigger at all. Let's go ahead and apply pressure. A little bit of creep, you can see it there. Wow, that's a really short break too. All right, there's your reset. Let's try that again. Little tiny bit of creep. We're at 1 millimeter. That is short. Let's see this reset. So it's at 2 millimeters. Here's the reset. Wow. Just a little bit of creep on this. And that break, man, is super small. No over travel. Tiny little reset. Very nice. Okay, we've got the green springs in here for the lighter trigger pull. This is the Hiperfire. Ooh. 2 pounds, 3 ounces. Very interesting trigger. £2, 4.7. Man, that's a light trigger. 2 pounds, 0.9 ounces. All right, here we go. Now, I already know this one has a lot of movement in the trigger. And it's really hard for me to tell based on the geometry of what's going on in here, what is take up and what is creep. It just looks so different from every other trigger. All right, we've got a lot of movement right there at 2 millimeters and it breaks. Look at the geometry of this. It's really hard to pull from the top, but then it goes real easy. All right, but we're back at 5 millimeters. Let's see the reset. Okay, it goes to 2 for the reset and a really short break after that. So we're at 5, 2 for the reset. It's very interesting. All right, back to a full reset. Let's see how this goes again. Look at all that movement. I'm back to 3 and we have no break yet. And there's that break. Okay, we've got the heavier mid pull weight springs in there. £2, 13.4 ounces. £2, 9 ounces. £2, 13.9 ounces. All right, my assumption is there's going to be no difference here, but let's give it a try, other than a little more resistance. Yeah, so it still has all of that. All right, seems like it broke just a tad sooner. Let's see. All right, we're at 1, 2 millimeters. Last time it was breaking at 3. This one's breaking at 2, and it's only going back to 4. Let's see that reset. We're at 2. Oh, there's 3. And there's that break. All right, a tad bit difference, not huge. It's a cool trigger. All All right, so that was a lot of work. If you guys appreciate the work that goes into this, do me a favor, hit a like or a subscribe down below. If we get enough of these and this video gets enough traction, maybe we'll do a fourth installment of this. So we have a lot of information to go over, and this video is already shaping up to be 17, 18, 21 plus minutes. So let's get right to it. First up is the price. Now you'll notice that I've rolled in all of the previous triggers that we've reviewed into this, okay? If you're only interested in the 5 that we've reviewed here, focus on the last 5 bars of this chart. All right. But across all of the triggers that we've reviewed, the Elftmann match trigger, depending on where you shop and when you're watching this video, was the highest price trigger. Now, you get what you pay for. You'll see later on, I feel like it offers some performance that some of the others don't. The best price is the RA434. Especially as much of a surprise as that one was when I reviewed it, that is a great option. The CMC is also a solid performer. It's not overpriced, and it performed very, very well across all of the tests that we did. All right, the pull weight. Now let me make a caveat here. Pull weight depends a lot on your use case. If this is a self-defense rifle, you don't want a 2-pound trigger, all right? You get startled, your startle response alone is gonna set that trigger off. So consider your use case when you're thinking about which trigger to purchase as it relates to the pull weight. The chart here shows that the Hiperfire Genesis with that green spring set had the lowest pull weight on it, followed by the Elftmann match. The Geissele SSA was the highest. Now you can see on the far left, I've got the mil-spec trigger in there in the gray bar. It's obviously the highest, but when it comes to the aftermarket triggers, the Geissele SSA had the highest pull weight on it. Another note here is that you're gonna get very, very slight variation depending on where you put the gauge on the trigger bow, all right? I tried to be as consistent as possible. If you go up higher, lower, it's gonna vary slightly. Okay, installation. This is a little bit of a subjective analysis on my part. I think the Elftmann match, the Triggertech adjustable, and the Triggertech competition are probably the easiest to install. The ones that require anti-walk, anti-rotation pins, or some other setup, the Timney is one of my least favorite. I have taken that trigger out and reinstalled it probably 5 or 6 times in various platforms. I hate the double set pins. So you have a set of set pins that drive down and another set that drives down on top of that. Now, it's secure, but I've never had any without the double set pins come out. But that one is a pain in the butt. The Hiperfire Genesis, I'm gonna say, is the more difficult to install. It probably took me about 10 minutes to get it the first time, just the learning curve alone. Once I figured it out, it was just a couple minutes to swap out to the other spring set. But that said, it is one of the more complicated to install. Next, we're just gonna lump the take up and or creep into what I'm gonna call pre-travel. I'm sure during the video I misspoke a time or two, but I'm gonna call them both pre-travel. Any of them that are flat lined out have basically no pre-travel to them. The Geissele SSA had the most, and the Hiperfire Genesis was the second most. Now, that being said, the Geissele SSA, and you can see the S3G here, they are 2-stage triggers. They are designed to have pre-travel, okay? Same thing with the Hiperfire Genesis. If you read the manufacturer's notes on this, it was designed to have mil-spec pre-travel to it. Now, that said, it's still less than mil-spec. You can see the mil-spec had 4 millimeters of pre-travel. The Hiperfire Genesis cut 25% of that off. All right, moving on to the over travel. So from the time that it broke, how far did the trigger move after that? The Geissele S3G, the SSA, the Triggertech adjustable, the Rise Armament 535, and the Triggertech competition were the best, along with the mil-spec, believe it or not. But that's because it had so much pre-travel, it didn't have to have all that over travel. The Elf Pro Lock trigger and the Geissele SSP performed at the bottom end of this test, having the most over travel. And the reset, the Triggertech adjustable, the Rise Armament 535, and the Triggertech competition had the shortest resets. The Elf Pro Lock and the Geissele SSP had the longest resets. Now again, you gotta kind of couple that with the pre-travel. A lot of times if it has a lot of pre-travel, it's gonna have a lot of resets. So it's just kind of the nature of the beast. And the break. They're all so close. I mean, you can see, this is, again, subjective. This is just my feel of the trigger. I'm giving it to the Elftmann match, the Timney 3-pound, the Triggertech adjustable, and the Elf Pro Lock. I feel like those all had the crispest breaks of the group. But on a 1 to 5 scale, everything was very, very close. with the exception of the mil spec and then the black rain. I do not like the break on the black rain. That was in the previous video that we did. All of the others were fairly consistent. So the best overall. That's hard to say, man. It's completely subjective. This is just my opinion. I think the Elftmann match and the Triggertech adjustable are my two favorites of all of the triggers that I've reviewed. I also have triggers that you guys have not seen here. There are triggers that I've had and sold. Of all of the ones that I've had, those are my favorites. Now, there are also some really, really solid products coming out of Rise Armament. For the price, I can't complain. Rise Armament is producing some great stuff. And that's it, guys. Version 3 of the AR trigger comparison series. If this gets a lot of traction, maybe we'll do a 4th version. We'll see. It's a lot of work. I mean, I filmed 2 triggers complete and forgot to turn the mic on. Had to go back and do them again. I mean, there's just a lot that goes into it. So if you guys really like it, I will do a 4th one. Again, thank you MSR Arms for sponsoring this video. We really appreciate it. Couldn't have done it without you guys. If you like this video, guys, do me a favor. If you appreciate what we did, hit like, hit subscribe. Thank you for watching. Got lots more videos to come, and I'll see you in the next one. Requirements for this.